Hey there, YouTube audience. This morning's stream is inspired by the events of 2020 and the events of 2026. And what I'm talking about is principles. Principles. Everybody seems to have principles until something that violates their fundamental understanding of things gets tested. In 2020, everybody was very concerned about, stopping the spread and all of that fun stuff. And everybody was very concerned about their rights until they were tested. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, we don't have principles anymore. Our principles, they're our loyalty to whatever cause or whatever. As soon as it's tested, are there principles? Do you really have principles? I want to know. Let us know in the comments if you have any principles and how they've been tested in the past 6 years. It's been an interesting series of tests about people's beliefs and what they consider moral, what they consider overreach versus what they consider ought to be really done. So that's what I wanted to talk about briefly today. I'll cover briefly space weather and earth weather as well. There is some likely space weather afoot right now, so that is definitely something to talk about as well. As there's a coronal hole high-speed stream about to show up, we'll talk about weather and so on as the dead of winter has concluded here in the mid-Atlantic states. So the Boston and D.C. corridor, we're having much warmer conditions now. The deep freeze is over. So I just wanted to preface the video by talking a little bit about principles and how they seem to break down so rapidly as soon as something sort of goes against what people consider to be okay. So I find that very interesting. And of course, we here at the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News, we don't want to influence anybody in an undue fashion. But it's always interesting to hear what people are going to tolerate. But the U.S. looks increasingly like a plutocratic corporatocracy. So if you're not familiar with plutocracy, it means rule by the rich. And a corporatocracy is when the rich and, corporations combine forces and in some cases just basically ruin the economy, ruin people's lives, ruin everything people have worked for a long, long time. When businesses shut down because of overreach, it's suboptimal. I'll just say it's suboptimal when that happens. So there's that. So let's take a look at some space weather stuff here. The sun has been pretty low in activity, but let's see what's going on. I'll bring up some imagery, just like we do on the regular old morning weekday streams. So we do have a number of large filaments on the Earth side of the solar disk. So let's take a look at those briefly. Thanks for leaving a comment, Barbarian1111. And we'll give that a minute to load and take a look at the X-ray flux here. So pretty low levels of activity here. Not a lot of flaring. I'll just press refresh again and again until it refreshes. That's refreshing, right? What in the heck is going on? Just bear with it here, folks. We'll show the relevant data. And show you some solar imagery. I swear. Oh, yes. No, that's okay. We'll wait. I don't know what's going on, folks. It's not, nothing seems to be working. You ever have that happen where nothing seems to be working? Yeah, a lot of that going on in 2026. I press refresh, nothing happens. I press refresh again, nothing happens. It's fun. It's fun. This is the state of computers. We would like control of our own devices, Microsoft. So yeah, release our own hardware for our own use. Oh yeah. What is up with it? What is up with it, folks? I don't know. I may find myself ending this stream early because I can't load any data to show to our viewers. Do any of the pages load? Any of the pages at all? Doesn't really look like it. It's fun. It's fun stuff. Fun times. Oh, your connection's not private. Oh no. Proceed to the website anyway. Just wow. All right. Let's try again to load 304 angstroms. It's the ionized helium wavelength. And nothing's loading. All right, well, look, I think I'm going to end this stream because this ain't going anywhere. But hopefully you haven't abandoned your principles because of loyalty, So Jerry Springs-N2V says, I bet you get like a little red cranberry when you get mad. Okay. Let me know how your bets wager, let me know how your wager figures out there. Stratotanker 8373 says, so this is the end? Not really. Our finest days lie ahead. And doomsday prophets, they just lie. So yeah, it's not the end of anything. It's barely even the beginning. Can we show some solar imagery? It looks like it's loading. That might be nice. Fugitive Iowa says, do you like Wendy's? Sure. Sure, I like Wendy's. Why not? Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's time to close this thing out. We something loaded here. So here's the sun. We do have some prominences here on this northeastern limb region. Pardon the delay there, folks. All right, what do we have? All right, so here's the latest from SDO. And as you can see, not a lot of complexity here. These sunspots are not major flare-producing sunspots. And have we seen the solar wind get denser yet? Not really. So we're still awaiting the coronal hole high-speed stream. We're going to see a density spike. So expect to see sometime today a big spike in this orange line here. You're going to see a big increase in the solar wind density. We already have a high-speed wind, though. So that's interesting. We did see a density spike here. It looks like a coronal hole high-speed stream is already here, actually, because we've got a solar wind velocity here that's been over 700 kilometers per second. Current conditions are only 630 kilometers per second, but that's still a high-speed wind. So there's a high-speed coronal hole stream already here, and we did have mild geomagnetic storm conditions first thing this morning, just after midnight universal time, for about 6 hours. Not likely to have spawned any mid-latitude aurorae. It is measured at Lagrangian point 1. This data is from ACE and Discover, and there are their orbits. Geospace is calm. Again, we do have a high-speed solar wind. And what do we have? Frosty's Rock, Bruce Manas. Hey, Bruce, how's it going? I like the end. My only friend, the end. Yeah, I mean, without ends, there aren't beginnings, right? Is the solar flare thing facing Earth yet? Not really. Thanks for asking, Vintok 8849. It's got to be the brainworms, right? Yeah, it might be the brainworms, for sure. There are certainly a lot of brainworms. Did you enjoy Valentine's Day with your sweetheart? Yes, I did. We enjoyed Valentine's Day, yes. Yeah, bringing awareness to the brainworms. GOES magnetometers are showing some spikes here, and that is what happens when coronal hole high-speed streams hit. It compresses and perturbs the magnetosphere. Thanks for subscribing and pressing like the second mouse. We appreciate that. We are expecting, at least NOAA is expecting some geomagnetic storm conditions. Again, mild ones here from that coronal hole high-speed stream. And apparently a CME as well. So the one that we talked about 2 days ago, that is showing up just as we forecasted as well. It's a co-interactive region. That is when there's a coronal hole and a CME sort of interdicting each other in space. One can catch up to the other one, and they can affect each other's magnetic fields and the other parameters that we measure for the solar wind. So a co-interactive region. Co-interacting region is when you have a coronal mass ejection and a coronal mass ejection, a coronal mass ejection and a coronal hole high-speed stream coming through at sort of the same time. They can affect each other. They are sort of independent clouds of plasma in space. Radio flux down to 117 solar flux units. That's the most important data set besides sunspot number in terms of solar activity. And here is our sunspot number for the Royal Observatory Belgium. That is only 73 sunspots. 73 sunspots is the current sunspot number. So continued decline in solar activity here. Any new CMEs on the way? Well, let's look for coronal mass ejections here on the GOES 19 coronagraph. Not so sure we have any more Earth-directed events. I don't think so, but let's look at stereo A to get some additional angle. We'll go to the Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center. And we'll bring up stereo A just to verify that there are no new Earth-directed coronal mass ejections. So there's our coronagraph. Press play and make that a little bigger for you. There you go, viewers. Now, from this perspective, Earth will be off to the left, somewhere out in this direction, on the equatorial plane, which would be sort of in the middle, but off to the left, as stereo A is a couple months ahead of Earth, orbitally speaking. And what do you got? Any new CMEs? Not in the Earth-directed sort of orientation. In fact, no real CMEs there to report on at all. Vintok 8849 says, are you a solar physicist? I'm not really a solar physicist. I considered majoring in cosmology. That's part of the reason why I came back to space weather. And of course, the reason we cover space weather on the channel is because there is no comparable daily space weather content. So we put out coherent videos that are propaganda and nonsense free, no alarmism. If you're frightened of the sun, this is not the channel for you, because the sun is your friend. This is where planets are located. And here is our GOES proton flux. What do you got? We got baseline levels, no spikes in the proton flux, no solar energetic particle events, and only some C-class flaring for the past day. Next, taking a look at the heliosphere. And Earth remains in a North Pole-oriented magnetic sector shown here in green. South Pole sector coming in a couple of days, shown there in red. And Stereo B, which is this spacecraft here, is already in the South Pole-oriented sector, where the magnetic field lines are pointing into the sun instead of out into space, as they are at the moment from Earth's perspective. Here's our coronal hole line of sight plot. Let's just show today. And there are those North Pole coronal holes that are straddling the equator and providing the current high-speed solar wind that we're getting right now. Vintok 8849 says, Gingers disagree. I don't know what that means, but thanks for leaving a comment. Here's our El Teide magnetogram. And like I said, these are not complex sunspots, so the likelihood of large solar flares is not really present. Here's our red light imagery. Show you a good view of the sunspots in their full animated glory. There it is. That's what about 70 sunspots look like. And they are all in the northern hemisphere at the moment. So the north latitudes there are the active ones. Nothing going on the Earth side of the solar disk in terms of sunspots. Some active regions there, but no umbre south of the solar equator. Last but not least, we'll look at filaments. And the Getty Lee filament now setting over here. This is a good filament to name right here. This one looks quite unstable, actually. So that would be a good one to name. If you want to name filaments after living people, your friends, your foes, even yourself, just join us over on Twitter. Twitter.com/Smashomash. Just put up the hashtag #NameNetFilament. And by the way, if you want to sponsor the sport of bicycling, this might be the opportunity to do it this season. I've pinned a tweet there because we are looking for sponsors who want their brand advertised for 2026. It might be less expensive than you think, so hit us up in DMs. There are many places to find us. You can find us on smashomash.com, all over social media. There's contact information, the Discord chat, and so forth. Thanks for leaving a comment. Snapdragona. Yeah, cool stuff indeed. Cool stuff indeed. Let's take a look at the sun here in 195 angstroms to show those North Pole-oriented coronal holes, the ones that are causing that high-speed stream right now, as their magnetic field lines just extend all the way out into the interplanetary magnetic field and indeed connect with Earth's magnetosphere. North Pole-oriented coronal holes here in spades. Anyway, the electron flux here has come down a little bit, but we're going to see electron storm levels again. We'll see pretty bad GPS performance. Here's the couple thermosphere, ionosphere, plasmasphere electrodynamics model. That is where you can expect the worst GPS errors. Those who use GPSs around the equator are typically aware of this. Some mid-latitude GPS users might not be. Not expecting major radio blackouts here again because we're not expecting major solar flaring. So there's our DRAP absorption prediction data set. And yeah, not very likely to see big flares today with those uncomplex sunspots. Bruce Manas says, let's spark. Please do. Please do. All right, so here's the ionosphere map. We're just going to show still images there. There's the ionosphere, and here is the anomalygram, which is the anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. Lots of low-frequency anomalies there south of the equator. So that's what's going on at the moment in the ionosphere. Let's transition to Earth weather. Here's the blue globe with the Atlantic sunrise. There you go. There's a great view from satellite. And let's briefly talk Earth weather. So like I said earlier, the mid-Atlantic states, the Boston to the DC corridor is now out of the dead of winter. The coldest part of the year is between mid-January and mid-February, and we're going to have warm temperatures to close out mid-February now. So yeah, the big freeze is over, and now these giant 8, 10, 12-foot high snowbanks will have the opportunity to melt. If you haven't joined the Galactic Federation Special Forces, well, what are you waiting for? As I say to you, Universum Liberate. Now, you can find our merch shop in the description right below this video. So help support the Galactic Federation Special Forces, which definitely has principles. We at the Galactic Federation Special Forces, we do things that are awesome. So, Universum Liberate. The symbolism means galactic scale reach, instantaneous transmission, signal strength and security, and the ability to strike anywhere in the galaxy. So, Universum Liberate. What's in your merch? Next, our U.S. water vapor map. We like to show it. It helps people clear things up, and we've got an upper level low here moving across the southeastern U.S. So there's a huge pressure gradients forming in here. As you can see, this counterclockwise rotation. It is entrained with dry, massive air, though, and it's just kind of pushing all this moisture up to the northeast. So remember, folks, dry air is more massive at a given pressure and temperature than moist air, and you can see that happening there on the water vapor map. Next is our Doppler radar map. Real quick, we'll show that. Come on, then. There we are. And quite a bit of moisture there from Memphis to Richmond at the moment. Things are going to clear up for Cincinnati here shortly. That's radar.weather.gov. Some showers there in the western U.S. as well. That's what's going on in terms of precip. Here's our forecast for Lehigh Valley. And expecting a high near 41 today. Tonight, a low only 28. So a warm spell here. Tomorrow, a high near 39. And Tuesday, a high near 45. So like I said, the dead of winter is completed. Here's a pressure map real quick from windy.com. And let's just show a forecast or two. We'll skip lightning maps. And then we'll come back to the jet streams and surface winds. All right, so do we have any more any more snow accumulation coming? Well, we're going to show a forecast. The GFS 72-hour forecast for accumulated positive snow depth change. Then we'll show the jet streams and surface winds and close this thing out. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, by the way. Here is your forecast for snow, and quite a bit of snow there coming out of the western U.S. Shout out to Smash Staff's mom. She's got 4 feet in the forecast there near Tahoe. And wow, look at that. That is, California is going to get absolutely kaplastered with snow here. But yeah, there's the forecast. That is some big snows coming to the western U.S., especially the west side of the Rockies. And of course, all of those ranges in California and Washington and Oregon and Idaho. And well, you see the map. That's a 72-hour GFS forecast. The snow forecast is in inches, and that is a lot of inches for some areas there. Late season snow is common in California, and we're going to get a little nuisance snow here in eastern PA as well, maybe an inch, coating to an inch, something like that. Here are the surface winds of the west side of the planet. Here are the jet streams for the west. And let's go east. Jet streams of the central world shown here. Shout out to our viewers from Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. There are your surface winds. Surface winds of the eastern world shown here. And there are the jet streams. Abe Barker says, fun fact, if the Earth had excess electrons, the rotation would cause a magnetic field in the direction we have now. If there were excess protons, the magnetic field would be in the opposite direction. That is not factual in any way, but thanks for leaving a comment regardless. We're going to close out the stream with this ionized helium imagery from GOES 19. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. If you're new to the channel, press subscribe. That way you'll get the world's most comprehensive daily space weather content right in your YouTube subscription feed. And don't forget to press the share button. Again, you can find our homepage in the description below this very video, smashomash.com. You'll find our social medias right there. Thanks to everybody who's pressed shared, like, comment, subscribe, and so on. And I'm out. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smashomash, signing off. And until next time, may that high-speed coronal hole wind be at your back.